Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Global Music Teachers podcast and vlog, where we connect you with our amazing teachers and industry professionals across our network. Today, we'd like to welcome to the show Domingo Fernandez from Tomplay. Hi, Domingo.
Hi, Michael. How are you? Thanks for having me.
So I'm connecting with
Yeah,
Domingo, and he's in Amsterdam at the moment.
yeah. I'm based in Amsterdam, but the whole crew and kind of the brains of Tomplay and the operations are in Switzerland. It's a Swiss company. Yeah.
Yeah. So Tomplay is an interactive sheet music app, enabling students and music teachers to play along with real recordings by professional musicians. It's an iPad, it's an iPhone, and it's an Android app. And they get digitized musical scores that would scroll across the screen and synchronize with the accompanying music. There's an option to slow down and speed up the music with the accompaniment. An option to record your playing with the accompaniment. You can annotate the scores and you can print your scores. It's an amazing app, and it's awesome to have Domingo here to talk about it. So, for teachers, we've kind of talked about this before the show. It's a teacher tool which enables teachers to have a score library of over 20,000 scores with them in the lesson and being able to share that with the students. So yeah, I guess it's a good opportunity, Domingo, to talk about the depth of the score library and how teachers and students are using that in their lessons.
Yeah. Basically, the total of all the instruments we work with, it's 20,000 scores, as you said. The biggest amount of repertoire in terms of instruments, I can point out it's piano and violin, specifically the classical ones. But also we have in the contemporary side, popular music side of it, and saxophone. It's the up and coming instrument. We found out that saxophone players are the most technology friendly students and teachers, let's call it.
Yeah.
So that's where we are seeing a huge growth in the contemporary music side. So if I have to make a top three, is piano, violin, and saxophone. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're getting their scores like in their lesson. So I guess the student and the teacher are choosing material together. So the teacher obviously can arrive in the lesson with maybe some of their favorite music that they used to have on printed scores that they'd be bringing to the lesson. Now it's all on the app and it's interactive. So the student and the teacher can play along and see the music going by. They can also pause and work on bars. Um, and yeah, it's just kind of moving that into like a more interactive teaching and performing setting in the lesson. And you mentioned, there's the saxophone students are coming on board as like a whole new pathway or a new instrument on the app. And so these students, like for example, are choosing scores, and there's the ability to choose an arrangement from like a beginner arrangement of one song through to a more advanced arrangement. How does that work?
Yeah, so basically, depends on the score, but normally the majority of them have three or four levels from very easy to advanced. And we also have, in case of really complex ones, we can even split it into more categories than where we mix intermediate advanced or easy intermediate.
Yep.
So yeah, we have different arrangements per level. And yeah, basically, once you have access to the catalog, if you have a subscription, you have full access to all the features. And well, as you said, it's a much more immersive experience because you have the opportunity to play along the rest of the orchestra or the rest of the band. So, if for example, you're a piano player and you play some Mozart, you can play, for example, the Piano 23rd by Mozart, and you can play it with the rest of the orchestra. So you really get to experience new sensations in the learning process, and which drives more motivation and more kind of ability to detect mistakes. If you are, for example, if you make a mistake while the orchestra keeps moving forward,
Yeah.
you're able to detect that mistake quicker than if you're just playing the same 10 bars with a metronome. Um, it's much more contrasting, so it motivates you more to play it or learn in the best possible way, you know?
Yeah, and it's awesome that
So
like a
that's one
teacher.
example, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it also I can see the other benefit of the fact that when the student when a teacher is introducing a new piece to a student, there's an opportunity to at least play the very first section of the song with the backing track and full accompaniment plus the lead instrument, so the student can from
Yeah,
the get-go listen to it, and there can be some time in the lesson where the student and the teacher kind of talk about the style, the tempo, what they're hearing in the music before they even start learning it, which is like a whole other side of the teaching experience, which might not be possible for a teacher to carry around 20,000 recordings of all of their
yeah.
repertoire as well as all of the sheet music. So having it all built in the apps just increases, like you said, the learning experience and also the practicing experience, which is really cool. So tell
Yeah,
me,
so
is there like
you,
any?
you gave an examples.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
for example, that the accompaniments, that this feedback between student and teacher. There's also an example when you have a quartet. So you, if you have a violin teacher and the student, you can play the first and second violin in their scores, and the rest of the accompaniment could also come from the speaker. So there's much more layers than just like the accompaniment and the main instrument. We can provide more of each kind of level depending on the piece and the type of accompaniment that it's present in the composition.
yeah, cool. And it's like a good
Yeah.
example of a contemporary song for a saxophone player, for example, who might be so a teacher might be teaching the same song, but with a beginner student, and then maybe for a more advanced student. Is there like a good example of a song?
I mean, I can refer to the jazz ones. Of course, we know, for example, a John Coltrane or Miles Davis or Brubeck. They are, I mean, they were, masters of the saxophone. But there's a different arrangements per level, and those early and beginner students have access to those levels. So yeah, there's an adaptation to each student, so the teacher can, you know they can give the student what they're looking for in terms of repertoire, without saying, oh, this is not for you because it's too hard. That happened to me a lot when I was a piano teacher, guitar player. I'm an electric guitar player. I used to play piano. I play sometimes, but yeah, to have a piano in Amsterdam, it's quite challenging. So I play guitar now,
Yeah,
and yeah. So if I wanted to play some Led Zeppelin, for example, it's you have as a beginner, and they have challenging guitar solos. For example, Stairway to Heaven.
yeah,
That solo you need to be more proficient in the instrument. But if I could have an adaptation of that to my level, it would motivate me more also to keep growing as a guitar player, because I don't know, like, it's a kind of a progress feeling that you have. Okay, I was able to play the songs of my favorite band, even though if it's not the same. I'm interacting with the song as a student. That's why I sign into guitar classes, because I want to play like my favorite musicians, or I want to play my favorite song. So it doesn't draw a barrier. It actually opens a bit the possibilities.
yeah. And of course, like for the teacher, they can say, we'll start you on the beginner arrangement of your favorite song. And once you've mastered that, we can move on to the more advanced version where we're going to take the same material, but like introduce all of the full rhythms or maybe the larger range on the instrument, which might maybe for a beginner might not be possible. But once they advance, they can start to pick up those extra, I guess, technical challenges that a piece might present or within the app.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Or you can get back to it after a few years, and get to the highest level. Like,
yeah,
depends on how much you study, of course, but
yeah.
it's always there. It's available for
Yeah.
everyone.
And so there's also we've talked about like the sheet music aspect, but there's also like an improv version of each of the scores. So for a drummer, for example, they might want to improvise and play along with the backing track versus reading a score.
Yeah, I mean, we tailor the score per every each instrument's needs. So, as I said, I'm a guitar player. So, in the guitar score, you have the notes score, and you have notes and tabs. So you have a line with the notes and the tabs beneath it. So there's a tailored approach to each instrument. So because we know the necessities of each performer, or the process which they come through while they learn. But also you mentioned the drums example, and that's a really good example because a lot of drummers don't read notes. So we have the option of that it's called Tomplay improv, which is just to play along with the accompaniment, you know, and they don't have to read the notes; they just play by ear, basically, which
Yeah,
is the case of a lot of drummers. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Or they can
yeah,
work with the teacher to say, we'll jam through this section here, but we'll play the prescribed fill in this moment here,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
open some of it up
Yeah,
for
yeah,
improv and some of it up for reading. Just kind of drip feed the
yeah,
reading for the drummers.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also the I guess like when we have a lesson with a beginner student, when we're doing face to face or whether it's an online lesson, there's a benefit to kind of show a student fingering, do a lot of demonstrating, like physical demonstrating. But for that beginner, when they go home, they usually would just be left just with the sheet music from that lesson and maybe
Yeah.
remembering some ideas of how to hold the note or what the fingerings are. But with Tomplay, there's also a visual guide for the notes on the piano, for example, or also the notes or fingering patterns for saxophone. Can you talk about that now?
Yeah, so basically, it's a new feature we launched a few months ago. So basically, it's available for the majority of instruments, so you can see have a visual display of the instrument and how to execute the notes that you need to play. So, for example, you need to play a C in the piano. You have a piano, let's call it a line or illustration of a piano at the bottom, and you would see the C being marked with another color than the piano. So there's that visual illustration that it gives more guidance to the student. It's not so you know it allows for a faster learning process because you're able to see it if you're not that familiar with the notes yet, especially with the beginners, and you can just imitate, and then while you imitate you read the notes, and then you have also the backing track. So it's a much more enriching process. It's not so it makes it more easy to learn. It's practical also. That's what I would say. Practical and easy. It
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
the process
Whenever a
easier.
student goes home, that'll be the first things is like suddenly they had a really interactive lesson with the teacher where they were jamming with the teacher or
Yeah,
playing with the recording, engaging, talking, pointing at the music, talking about the instrument,
yeah,
fingering, all that sort of stuff. But when they go home, it's just them with the sheet music. But with the fact with
yeah, yeah,
there's the there's the backing track, which makes the whole learning and playing experience feel like a performance. So it makes them want
yeah,
to
yeah,
continue to practice a lot. But then there's like the supported learning aspect of the visual representation of the instrument, so that they can kind of feel supported. So when they don't know the fingering for an instrument, it's there, or which is like an awesome guide and
yeah,
motivating feature.
yeah. Definitely. I wish I had that when I was studying piano a few years ago because it gets quite boring to repeat compass after compass after compass, and in the class, as you said, it was so fun, but then you get home and you're like, ah, it doesn't sound like the class. So it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
and it gets for the
yeah.
parent also. If the parents like watching the student practice, they can hear everything in the context, and so
Yeah, yeah.
it's
They even
quite
get excited. Like when I was playing piano with Tomplay last time I was at home in Mexico, and I would play The Godfather, but with the speaker. And my father is like huge. He loves all these classic films from Hollywood,
yeah, yeah.
and I would start playing. He like play The Godfather again. I'm like, he never said that when I was a kid, and I was like, okay, well, you didn't give me this much attention 10 years ago, dude.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess you must find
So
as
yeah,
well,
it's
like the parents
because how
wanting to
many times,
play with
yeah.
the students. Yeah.
No, well, not in case of my parents. He would just watch TV. No, just kidding. But it's just like, um, I like the patience of my parents with me practicing piano is like you're playing the same thing over and over again, and you're like listening to that. Or especially like my brother used to play drums.
Yep.
So you imagine the loudness of practicing drums as an 8 or 7 year old, which is like
Yeah.
so yeah, it's like it's quite loud. So yeah, this would make it you know, they would learn faster, so maybe the children would become less annoying, I guess. Just I no, I
And
just that's a conclusion I just jumped into now,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
just like
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. And then, yeah, I guess the parents will automatically start browsing through the library of repertoire to see if there's anything that they really like that they can kind of say, hey, you know, son or
Yeah,
daughter, you
or
should
when they
learn this
want
one
to,
next,
yeah.
you know.
Yo,
Yeah,
you know those Christmas dinners when you know they want you to play the Christmas song because you've been studying a lot in front of all the uncles. So yeah, now they have the backing tracks, and all the uncles could be like, "Oh, look at him! You know, he plays piano, and like you have Santa Claus is coming to town," or this really annoying Mariah Carey one. What's the
yeah,
one?
yeah,
And all I want for Christmas is you. Oh, and everyone gets super excited and like yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
that it's also like yeah, it makes parents happier. Also, Tomplay is also meant to make parents happy.
yeah, yeah. It's just the
Yeah,
fact that you have such a big library at your fingertips. That's kind of,
yeah,
like a massive win for the student if they feel like after the lesson they can go home and, that'll be a classic thing for a teacher to say to the student, what's the next song we should learn, or what sort of music are you interested in next? And the fact that you can browse through the library with the student and start picking out songs and maybe formulating a bit of a plan for the term or the semester, the fact that it's all kind of there, that's a real kind of motivating factor for the student and the teacher to feel like that kind of thinking of repertoire thing is simplified.
yeah, and also it covers every genre. You can play from Metallica or to Vivaldi, you know. So depends on the type because you know you have the jazz teachers, heavy metal guitar teachers, classical piano ones. So it's really 360 in the terms of repertoire, the catalog, and it's ever growing. Like we add scores every week, so it's not that. Once you get the subscription, you just have access to this 20,000, and it might be in a year 30,000. And the
Yeah,
idea is to cover as many as much as we can. And yeah, so imagine if for a price of, I mean, I'm getting into the prices now, but if you pay 99 USD a year, that's like seven something a month. If I'm not, yeah, just from the top of my head,
yeah, yeah.
you have
So
access to all the scores. So yeah,
yeah, we're looking at like
it's quite,
$15 or under $15 Australian or slash New Zealand,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, per month.
And
And
if you're a
te-
teacher, you have a discount. Yeah, we have a lower fee for teachers, which is 84 USDs or euros. So yeah, it's much more attractive for teachers because of the discount, and they can also invite their students, and they have a right to the same discount. So yeah, it's. I mean, we want to get teachers on board because of the networks of students. That's why we have a cheaper price, and we have a more tailored approach, like the a la carte scores option. We also have, they can share a score where both of them have access to the same score, and if they make notes or they point out something in the same score, the student will have a synchronized access with the same score. They can also print the scores, from the app. So yeah, I mean, we try to cover what the teachers need. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And in terms of like a time saving for a teacher, being able to not have to arrive at every lesson with a folder full of music, or just in
Yeah.
case the student wants to learn that music, or having to do a whole lot of photocopying or scanning and sending PDFs, all that sort of thing, it's all taken care of with the app. And yeah, for a teacher, for example, they could add $3 or $4 per lesson to their fee, and that means that the student has a far more engaging lesson, but also has like a full repertoire of music that they can take home and practice with the backing tracks. So for a teacher, it's like really inviting way to make a really engaging um, lesson, as well as really engaging experience for the students at home when they're practicing. And so it's a real win for a teacher being able to offer that at a really affordable price for both the teacher and the student.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And well, as I mentioned, it you said it's an app for Android and iOS, but you also have the computer app, so you can use it on any computer. And so it's also you don't need an iPad only. You can use it on your computer, connect it to an HDMI in the class, and have it on a big screen. So yeah, definitely it's available for all platforms. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, if you're running an ensemble class or something, a larger group lesson, you could
yeah,
project it onto
exactly.
the screen. That would be like a good example.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, there's also I was trying to think off the top of my head, but like the ability for a teacher to put on a recital or a concert and have the students be able to play with a full backing track rather than hiring an accompanist necessarily for all of their students. They can have like a full orchestral backing track. So yeah, I think you mentioned earlier the the example of 10 children playing Mozart pieces
yeah.
solo piano.
Yeah. So yeah, the parents after parents are really well educated, but I know deep down after the 10th kid playing the same Mozart piece, they'll be like, oh, another kid playing the same Mozart piece. But if you have, as a teacher, if you have the opportunity to present this recital and have a speaker which can, we can connect via Bluetooth, so it's quite simple, technically speaking.
Yeah,
So you can, it actually feels more like a concert than just a recital. So it will be an interesting approach to also add this on the recitals.
yeah,
And yeah, I mean, yeah, you can connect to a Bluetooth speaker, or, I mean, yeah, share, check it. It's much more entertaining than just a pure recital, if you know what I mean. And there's more elements to it than it's more like a concert experience.
yeah, for sure. And I guess
Yeah,
for the teacher in the lesson, not necessarily having to learn the accompaniment for all of the repertoire that they're teaching. The fact that some of the, obviously, for example, a violin teacher who might have to also play a bit of piano to accompany the student now can have like a
yeah,
really rich accompaniment experience for the student, and they can jump back on the violin to play along, or focus on the violin side rather than the accompaniment side for the lesson.
yeah, exactly. So as I said, with all the backing track options, you can play with that and take over the first violin, what the piano part is played by the student, and then the whole orchestra is played on the score on the speaker. So yeah, definitely, we have examples of recitals in our YouTube channel, and then you can see how it was merged in a piano recital, where the pianist was accompanied by Tomplay on the speaker. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's also a string quartet arrangement. The teacher can play the violin one part, the
yeah,
student
exactly,
can play violin two, and then you've got the
exactly.
two other string parts in the accompaniment. Yeah,
Yeah, or if you have a saxophone player and you have the jazz band comes from the accompaniment side. So it's definitely it's more entertaining. Yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah,
in every aspect. Yeah.
yeah. And how have you found, the business, I guess, during the pandemic, more and more people looking to learn from home, or I guess looking for a tool that enables them to continue the online lessons with a student when they can't do the face to face?
Yeah, I mean that's the trend in the last year and a half, especially in the countries that have had more difficulties with this. I mean, everyone's stuck at home, and I mean they want to be productive. They're gonna keep doing the online courses, but the majority of them need an online tool for music learning. So that's why for us, we've seen a lot of engagement and growth on that side from students and teachers. So there's actually more. It's the moment of an app like our app to be there and make people engage with the digitalization of the e-learning process in music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's still like a full musical immersive experience, so it doesn't take away from that kind of still the one-on-one lesson thing is really, really valuable, and this tool just adds a whole lot of extra value for that lesson as well as the practice experience.
Yeah, and the remote teaching, we have a couple of, we have also some content, articles, and well, in the YouTube channel, there's a few tutorials on how to build remote lessons. So we have we saw how teachers were using our app also for remote lessons through Zoom, and yeah, it's basically it's a tool that's became very useful with the current situation. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for teachers, they can go to tomplay.com/teachers, where they can check out the app
Yeah, exactly.
videos there.
That's kind of the tailored page where they'll find a specific description of what they would be looking for as teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a great video there as well, so you can see the app in action. And there's also a 14-day free trial that they can sign up to.
Exactly. Yes. So you can sign up to the free trial, and then yeah, if you like to stay, you have the teacher discount, which is $84 a year with the discount when it should be 99. So yeah, there's I mean, you have this advantage. And you also have the possibility of having it synchronized in all of your devices. So for example, if you're at home, you're working on your computer, you can go to your class with the iPad and you have the same library there. So yeah, it's completely, yeah, it covers all the devices, even the smartphone also. Yeah.
Yeah, all synced together. And there's the option, yeah, there's the two. There's a monthly subscription, the yearly subscription, and there's also pay per score option.
Yeah, you have pay per score, or we have bundles. And for example, out of the topics, for example, the most, emblematic Christmas songs for piano. So it's a bundle of 10. So if you buy a bundle of 10, each score, it's cheaper because it's a package. So you also have these type of options where it's a package and you have a theme-based package. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so all the links I'm going to put in the show notes so you can check out that teacher package Domingo mentioned, and also all of the YouTube videos that cover all of the app's use and ideas for its use, and ideas for online lessons and teaching and delivery.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you have time to check out our YouTube channel, I mean, we're really big now with collaborations with big renowned online teachers, musicians, and YouTubers. For example, David Bowie's pianist Mike Garson. There's a video of him displaying how he enjoys Tomplay, or Michael Bublé's trumpet player, I think. He's also there and displaying our strengths and how he was surprised with Tomplay, and it was so useful for him. Yeah. So yeah, just check the YouTube channel. There's actually a playlist called Our Users Have Talent. So you have access to all the partnerships and all the musicians that make use of our app. And it's really fun because you have videos from, this Mike Garson, David Bowie's pianist, explaining more about the benefits of Tomplay. But there's also really fun videos where a piano player from Brazil is dressed as Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, and he starts playing Mission Impossible on the piano. So it's a fun watch, definitely.
Yeah. Cool. I'll put all those links in the show notes. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us and being part of the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Michael.
Yeah. It's over. What's the time over there in Amsterdam?
Right now it's almost 10 p.m. Yeah, good morning to you and good night for me.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Until next time, see you later.